Hi everyone. Happy to be with you again for a live session. Today we are meeting on a Tuesday because yesterday it was a public holiday here in Mauritius. And I was away with a family to spend some nice family time, and we only got back in the afternoon. So I thought we would shift this and do the live on Tuesday for a change. And because we are at the end of a month, I have a guest speaker with me again today. So let me just share my screen so that we get to... Hi, Debbie.
Hey, how are y'all? How's everyone?
Good. So very happy to be with you today. So Debbie lives in Florida, in the States, and is a parenting coach, and she works mostly with blended families. Is that right, Debbie?
Yes, we actually are a blended family. So yeah, I have 10 kids together, so we have a lot of experience.
Awesome. Yeah, awesome. Yeah, so it's great having you with us, because while I was preparing this, it's just very often I talk about a lot of things, and strategies apply mostly around the spectrum, but I guess when you don't live it every day, it makes a change. So it's actually great to have you with us, because for me, I have like one son, so it's like single child family, which is very different to an extended family. Yeah. So why don't you tell us a little bit more about your family and like your own blended extended family, what it's like?
Yeah, actually, me and my husband, we were friends a long time ago, and we met again about 4 years ago. I had 3 kids. At the time, they were all like teenagers at the time. So, right. And then my husband had 7 kids. So, anyway, so we decided to get married 4 years ago. And in that time, we have our kids range from the age of 29 down to 13. So we have pretty much all teenagers in the house at this time. So big family.
Yeah. Yes, big family.
Yeah.
So there are some challenges that are met by blended families because the dynamics are just different from what I would call, let's say, traditional families. And those are the ones I'd like to touch on today. For example, I suppose when we get married and we start a family, we get to know our kids from when they are little, from day one, and they are babies, and we grow up and they grow up. But for a blended family, you kind of meet the kids when they are older. Sometimes they are kids, but it's not from the very first day a lot of time. Or like you, sometimes they are already teenagers. So it calls for like a whole new different dynamic that you encounter. So what would you like to share with us? What was it like for you? Did you meet any challenges, or were there adaptations, or were there ways to get to connect together, or what was it like?
Well, I would say at the beginning, even in the dating stage, because my children especially were very not trusting at all, because I had been married, twice before. So they really struggled with the whole trust thing. So from the very beginning, they weren't on the relationship at all. So a lot of my struggles with my children were at the beginning, before we even were married, because there was just a lot of fear. And then with my husband's children, they weren't as fearful. I mean, they were all about it. So they were more open at that part of it. So I think my kids at the beginning dealt with it more at the beginning. And then as we transitioned into the home, because we don't have all of them that live with us, there's some that live with their mom, and then some that live with us, and some are older. But as we got in, what I noticed, and what we all notice, is that we all have the trust issues, starting from the parents down. So, and everyone deals with it differently, so right. I would say the biggest transition was being able to listen to how each one was talking, not really talking, but feeling or acting out, in the fact of not trusting. So that was probably the one thing and even to this day, trying to understand where they're coming from. We're not all the same, and we have very different personalities, and being able to give them the space, to do that. So,
because we're all dealing with our emotions in different ways, aren't we?
Yes, definitely. Yeah. And I think that's exactly it. And I think it gave us, I would say we always call the last couple of years our transitional phase. Because it was such a transition, because you think in your mind, and we all do, when you're trying to deal with your trust issues or whatever, that you do it in the way that you feel best, and you want to help people do it in the way you feel like they need to, or because you're trying to help them. But in the same,
absolutely.
But anyway, what we really found is just allowing the space was a big key, for them to grow.
Okay. So what would be your advice for somebody who is actually going through that transition and whose kids are really finding it difficult? Would it be like giving them their space?
Yeah, and just not, my thing, I'm a talker, so I'm like, oh, let's talk about it, and that was how I was with my kids. So I would go in at night and talk, let's talk about it. Of course, my son, most men are more talkers, and my husband has all boys, so for them it's like talking, like what in the world. So what I found was I needed to be quiet a little bit and just give them the space to come to me. I don't have to always try to fix, So I would say, everyone has a different need. Now with my girls are different, and they needed a father figure, but at the same time they weren't trusting. So honestly, I would say the best advice is just to really observe the child and give them the chance to express how they feel or not, if that makes sense. Just give them the space to grow into the situation, because it takes time. They say studies, it's 5 to 7 years for a family when they're blended to come together to really. So that's 5 to 7 years is quite a long time, but and then to add on the teenage years adds a whole nother ball game with that. So
yes. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, because they have to deal through their own stuff at the same time, don't they?
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right. And allowing that time is sometimes so difficult for us because, as you say, we just want to fix things and we just want, things to be okay.
Yes.
For us and for them and for the whole family. But it's not often. It's not as simple as that.
Exactly.
Okay, so and for you, did you have sort of, because you say it was difficult from the very start as you started, I suppose, dating your now husband? Yeah. So was it difficult? Because sometimes, when you have a sort of status of girlfriend, you don't have the same responsibilities as mom to the stepchildren. Like in the whole family dynamic, it's not quite the same thing because you're not always together maybe, or things are different. So for you, was it different? Like those different roles, were they different, or
in the dating stage versus the married one?
Yes.
Yeah, I would say so. I would because in the dating stage, like I said, you had the time to to get to separate from that and to look at it in a different scenario. And plus, you weren't around each other all the time, So once in the dating stage, we would go and do like fun activities and different things. And then once we were married, like I said, we have some that live with us, some that moved out. So there was a lot of back and forth. So I don't see much of a difference as far as the time goes. I just think the more that, as far as once we were together all the time, just the personality started coming out, then, just what should happen, you know what I mean? And at that point, I think that's when it just gets real and you have to start just saying, okay. And really, honestly, I think that the biggest thing I would say is really understanding how to love unconditionally, because it's not how we think, so people need it differently. So,
yeah. And I think what you said is very important because I guess when they show their personality more, it also means that the trust is sort of installing itself, because lots of time we tend to sort of keep back a little bit when we don't trust fully, or we don't, and once we know that we have room to express what we really feel and stuff like that, it we can show a bit more of who we are.
Except being more vulnerable. Yes, definitely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
And
So,
yeah,
yeah.
go ahead. But what I was saying too is that even with like I said at the beginning with my kids, what I saw, and I didn't realize this, is I wasn't in a relationship for a long time, so there was a lot of fear hidden. So what happened was, as a relationship came along, it brought up these things that were so underlying that it all came out, like this fear, like, oh, but it was actually, if it wouldn't have been there, it would never have been able to have been healed, if that makes sense. So for instance, my daughter said, how do I ever trust a man? How could I ever trust a man? And she was crying and upset. I want to, but I don't understand. I've never seen it, So even though it was all unraveling, it was unraveling for the good. It was like bringing that stuff up. So it was definitely a healing time. And like I said, and I think for each child it's different, because it was earlier for mine, and I think it's just progressing. Everyone is different. So it's just allowing that space. But, so.
And it's just skills that we are learning, aren't we? Just to be in some difficult situations even. It's just something that we have to learn to go through, and it sort of gives us sort of luggage for afterwards in life, where we can deal with more difficult challenges and stuff.
Yes.
Okay. So something else that can be complicated for blended families is all the sort of visiting schedules and like all the back and forth, dealing with ex-partners, because you don't have to do that in although even in traditional family. I know when I met my husband, he had been going out with a girlfriend for like 10 years, and that was my son going back and forth.
That's so
yeah, because usually he's not there when I'm doing the live. So today he had straight sort of information not to come and bother me, but he's still very curious. So it's kind of funny. Yeah, so it can be complicated to be dealing with ex-partners and visitation, and like not everybody's in the house at the same time, or when they are, it's a whole, like adapting to a whole lot of different dynamics. Is that challenging for you, or have you dealt with clients where it was challenging, and how to deal with that?
And the visitation with us is pretty flexible. Ours is really a little bit different than most, because ours, there's two moms involved with my husband's children. So he was married twice, and he has kids from each wife. And then I just have the one. But two of our parents, the first wife, is not real involved with the kids at all. So we pretty much have all the, as far as custody or we have it all there. And then the second one is very involved. Then with mine, it's the same. Their dad is involved, but not emotionally involved as much. So we have so many dynamics. We have a little bit of some that are, some that aren't. But as far as visitation goes, we're real flexible. So they, everybody kind of comes and goes, when they want to. But I would say that the biggest thing with us, not so much the visitation, but the lack of parent involvement. Sometimes it's hard because, on the other end, like I'm the stepmom and he's the stepdad. So it almost it's harder for our children to trust us, because they don't have that parent that they've ever seen that they could trust, if that makes sense. So in our dynamics, it's a little bit different. The parent is not visibly involved, if that makes sense. So it is a little bit different. So we don't really have to worry about visitation. Now, in the past, I've had issues with that. And a lot of times you may have to make it legal, and kind of set things up where it's more regular. But in this case, when they're not involved, it's just a matter of just us being there and picking up the pieces, and just being there when they're wondering why, so.
Right. So. Yeah, and being present and being sort of holding that space, as you say.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. And well, to me, just correct me if I'm wrong, but it's also a matter of listening to the family's needs, because not every family is the same. And,
exactly.
As you say, sometimes the ex-partners are very present. Sometimes they are not. Sometimes, I don't know, week by week basis might work very well, and sometimes not at all. So.
Mm-hmm. And I think the biggest thing is in your own house. Like, we can't control what goes on outside, with the other parent. But if you can create the stability in the home, yourself, you know what I mean? Just have that stability. And even before just being, both of us being single parents, and I'm sure there's single parents here too. But just if they have that one parent, or if they have that, now you have the blended family and you're stable, whatever goes on the outside, at least they have that haven to come back into. And that's kind of what we try to do, is to create that, at our
and where we can be grounded and we can have what they need.
Exactly.
Yeah. Absolutely. And how about between themselves? Step siblings is sometimes difficult too. Like, normal brotherhood and sisterhood are complicated anyways. Mm-hmm. So I'm guessing there are even more emotions when you have to get used to sort of some brothers and sisters that you haven't grown up with. So is there any dynamics there that were challenging?
At the beginning, and then there is like different ones now, but at the beginning, I remember, like with my kids, they didn't really want to bond, especially my daughters with the boys. There were 7 of them, so that my daughter was like, oh, heck no, so there, any fears they had of men or boys, it was shot out the window, because I got several now, but it's funny. But back then that was a big thing, is like, that they didn't want to kind of hang out, with the boys. Of course, my son was happy because he had 7 brothers and he never had that. But I would say that was the dynamic at first, just trying to get them to open up the whole family concept anyway. And then now at this point, I would say that the oldest, like we have the oldest one that's 29, so he's more mature. So, and then we have younger ones, that are, the dynamics of kids wanting to work these days and different things. So I think there had sometimes issues about that, at times it's like being responsible versus not. But, and then, I just think that's probably it. It's just the way kids deal with things, and one of them thinks, oh, that one's a brat, that one, whatever. So I would say just the dynamics in that way, at times, we just have to kind of intervene,
and just like normal siblings, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it's the same, exactly.
Having the same strategies and listening to them, and as you said, giving them space and voicing their emotions out and things like that.
Yes, exactly. And everyone comes from a different, background. Some of our kids are with one parent and some are with, us, or some, so it's just a little bit different, but each situation, just as it comes up, like I said, we kind of now understand how to deal with it, but it's just normal. I'd say right now it's just normal teenage behavior, working itself out. So.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Great. Well, thanks a lot for sharing with us. I'm sure people will find that helpful, because a lot of time when we are in that transition, it's difficult to to see how to deal with that. But I'm sure just hearing about that from you would have been helpful for a lot of parents out there. Let me just check. I like to check before, and if there is any questions, so that we can handle those if there are. Okay, there doesn't seem to be any questions, but as usual, if you have any questions, and you can post them in the comments, and then Debbie is in the group with us, so you can answer them if ever there is anything, or if you would rather send me a private message, then I can always send that to Debbie if you don't want to be known or want it to be more anonymous. Great. So Debbie, where is the best for people to connect with you?
Actually, On the Facebook, I have a blended family group. So it's called Blended Families. So if anyone wants to join, kind of like your group, same thing. And it's a support system, for blended families. And then we're trying to come together and get topics, same thing, to discuss that relates to the family. And then Tools for Success. I have a website, so you could go on there as well. And then it gives my information, my website, and the Facebook page also on there.
Awesome. So what I can do is I can post them right under our interview.
Okay, great.
I think I have a link for your website, but then you can just send me for your Facebook group, and I'll post it. And then if parents are interested, they can always come join you there.
Yeah, I would love to have everybody there. It's really good to support each other, with the family. So, and just like it is with your parenting, so just it's good to know that other people are going through the same thing. So.
Absolutely. Well, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Really great having you. Have a nice rest of your day because you're only morning.
Yes. Y'all have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.